Hey there, I'm Latavia, and my mom, Cynthia Riha, is a guide for the Enneagram Prison Project.
Hi, my name is Clay, and this is the Enneagram Prison Project podcast. In this episode, I sit down with EPP Guide Cynthia Riha. We're also joined once again by Laura Hooper, who is also a guide and program manager for EPP. We're glad you're here. Thanks for listening. This is the Enneagram Prison Project podcast. I'll just start then with thanks for sitting down, because we were supposed to do this. We successfully avoided doing this a couple weeks ago, and it's actually not always comfortable. It's easy to say yes, and then it's a little more difficult to sit down and actually do it.
Yeah, no, I feel that. And I think I was avoiding it last time. My husband asked me, he said, "When did you say yes to doing the podcast?" I said, "Well, I never said yes."
Yeah.
I just did say no.
Yeah. That is, and I'm down with the no. I have been told no exactly once, and I've been told nothing several times. So I just
Sorry, it's just funny.
It kind of is, and the thing is, I always want this to be totally voluntary and the will of the people. Like if you want to sit down and chat, I think it's awesome, and then if it doesn't sound appealing, it's usually not going to be very fun. So
yeah.
I feel a lot different about, you did say yes this time, by the way.
I did.
And so for the record, let the record show. Yeah. You're pointing at Laura.
Yeah.
Did she say yes for you?
No, but when she said she'd be part of it, I was like, okay, I'm for that.
Yeah. It's a lot easier having a third wheel, and Laura has been on quite a few of these.
Call me the third wheel. That's why it seemed like the Howard Stern thing. Cause you know how he always had that woman who was with him?
Robin.
Yeah.
Not that I even watched it, but
yeah.
Robin Quivers.
I think that's right, actually.
Like that, yeah.
But she like laughs at all your jokes.
I do.
Well, all my jokes are funny.
Yeah.
Cue the laughter.
She's a built-in laugh track.
Is third wheel bad? Is that
Well, normally it's like the maybe because I'm the youngest sister, so like third wheel was always like the one that wasn't really wanted to be there. So it was like,
I think of it like one of the ATVs. They only have three wheels.
Three-wheeler.
Smart. It's a good point. That's what I think of when I think third wheel. Because like without the third wheel, the three-wheeler
be a bike.
Not necessarily, because it would be if it was missing the front wheel, it'd fall forward.
Yeah.
If it was missing either of the back wheels, it'd fall over.
Yep.
So third wheel is necessary. Third wheel is good.
So I have a question for the two of you.
Sure.
Let's talk about relationships and how we work together in prison. Because one of the things that really struck me when I was here 2 weeks ago was it wasn't even how seamlessly the two of you work together. And it isn't like you're merged. It isn't like I can't find Laura or I can't find Clay. But it's a deeper definition of what a team is. And it's all this giggling and honesty and poking and everything on the outside. And then it's this seamless dance with the men on the inside that's raw. Not like you two are thinking about, I'm going to do this, I'm going to move here, you're going to do that. In fact, Clay, you don't even pay attention to the session plan. It's just fascinating to watch how the two of you have built this relationship that functions in prison and is, I would say a new kind of intimacy that holds it all. How does the work contribute to that?
You want it?
Go ahead, you start, and then I'll jump in.
I think, first of all, for me, it's very specific to Laura. I have a lot of respect for how good she is as a guide, how much she knows, how well she knows the curriculum. And for me, that is a really strong point of trust, because I know that that establishes a lot of what is going to happen. And I don't have to worry a lot about, is she going to say the right thing, or is she going to ask the wrong question, or none of that stuff. And I can I can show up to class and know that it's going to be a good class based on how good of a guide she is. I would say that if she wasn't sitting next to me, by the way, or across the table or whatever.
Yeah, I know that.
That is, for me, that's maybe that's specific to me, maybe that's specific to her, but whatever, it's true. It's just how it is. So, and then from there, I can be more of who I am. I can show up as an ambassador and not really worry about having to bail out the guide, or, I'm not going to be leaned on more than I've committed to, I guess, for lack of a better way of describing that. And so when that foundation is strong, then a lot of other stuff can just kind of sit there, and the foundation will hold it all. So there's a lot of jokes, a lot of cutting up. And to me, that's all just fun, but it also is possible because of the foundation that exists. And I think that that's super important. And I also know that the serious conversations can happen as well as the fun ones can. So there have been conversations where it's actually been a rough couple of weeks. and all that stuff works out because the silliness is not an avoidance of the serious stuff. It's just in addition to. So we can have all the serious chats too. For me, that's very important. Can we goof around, but can we also get down to business? And maybe a third piece that this has come up probably more often in the practice patch, which is a place where guides and future guides kind of practice our curriculum in little 15-minute blocks and get feedback and stuff like that. And we've done that together. Laura as a facilitator, myself as an ambassador, and we've given feedback that sometimes conflicts. And so I don't agree with what she says, or she doesn't agree with what I say. I don't know if that's happened. I mean, it happens by me not agreeing, but I'm saying I feel the freedom to say, actually, I don't agree with that. And this is the beauty of this work, is like we can believe two different things and find an answer still. So all that to me ultimately falls under the umbrella of safe, trust, all that stuff.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because we talk about being able to have trust in ourselves, about belonging to ourselves, but then something else happens when we also have that trust with our co-guide or our co-ambassador, or whoever's in the room with us. Something really...
Point this mic like right at you.
Almost magical happens.
Oh, I totally agree. Yeah, I think for me, it's, thanks for all that. Like that. Thank you. I did actually receive it. Appreciate it. I think for me, it's, when I knew first, I was so excited the first time Clay was going to come, and it was just myself and a couple other people, but I knew he was going to be an ambassador the entire course. I was excited, and I was like, oh no, like I didn't know Clay all that well. I'd be that way with anybody, because it's just, what's this going to be like? But I think for me, very quickly, it was like so clear that like Clay is here because he loves the folks inside and he wants what's best for them. And so I think when I had that, just knew it in every part of me, it was like, I'm actually more relaxed in the classroom now than I think I've ever been, because it's just there. And I trust Clay so much with kind of, as he said, like if he's going to tell me if he disagrees with something, he will do it incredibly with kindness, but he's also not going to, he cares so deeply about the work that we're all doing. And I just know it, that I can relax, and like, he's going to be there right next to me. He wants me to be great at what I'm doing. He wants to be great at what he's doing. He wants everybody in the classroom to fall in love with themselves. Like, it's just, yeah, when that happens, and to have somebody with the experience of actually being incarcerated, it's totally different. And we have also, like, we've had some tough stuff that we've navigated together, because, programming in prison can be challenging if you weren't aware.
As it turns out.
Only when they test the alarms.
Yes. Or when there's a food sale, or you name it. There's always there's unexpected things. And to be next to someone who like, okay, we may not approach this the same way, but I actually trust your judge on this. And I know you trust me, and we can, you'll go that way, I'll go this way. And it can be a small, like, who's going to respond to something in the classroom. And I think it's interesting because I don't think of either role hierarchically, like guide or ambassador. And yet there is this respect that I feel both ways of like, you're an ambassador, you do your thing. I'm not going to come in your lane. And there's times where it's clear he should be the one speaking, and he does. And it's also the reverse of that. There's times where it's clearly the moment for the guide to say or speak or do, and he totally respects that. So it's just this natural kind of, we do that well together. And the more we do it, the more it feels just natural and trusting. And I think, and you can let me know if you disagree, Cynthia, but I think when folks in the classroom get to experience co-guides or co-whatever, it adds so much for people. I think it can be healing just to watch people be productive. Sounds like not quite the right word, but like be in relationship and productive together. It's just, I don't know. I love it. I think it's so cool. I mean, I had that a little bit definitely with guides I had worked with a lot, like Ariane and Scott before I moved. And I loved having that just trust of just, and no pressure. Like, right. I don't ever feel like I have to be perfect. I mean, I might do it to myself, but I don't feel that from Clay. And that's, really supportive.
Yeah. There's something so profoundly easeful when we can drop into ourselves that deeply, because we have this relationship that's so trusting that, it's that easefulness. Mm-hmm. And I've experienced that a few times. And that's what I felt like I walked into 2 weeks ago. And the other piece I think is so interesting is that I was trying to explain this earlier. You two have built this community at RJD, and it has a Laura and Clay flavor to it. And yet the community, what I'm feeling are EPP's values and EPP's curriculum. I mean, that's really what I walked into, but almost in, structures in consciousness that you could feel inside the prison. And it has a Laura and Clay flavor that's porous, it's welcoming, it's inclusive, and it has the Laura and Clay flavor. What can I say? So it's just, I think that's a beautiful thing to have created. It's not cookie cutter. It's not anonymous. And it's not just the curriculum. It's the people that are bringing the curriculum.
Do you see what you added to that when you came 2 weeks ago? And for those who, I'll let you sit on that question for a second while I just add context. 2 weeks ago, we did, we started the beginning of a 4-day, 24-hour compressed program scheduling. We did day 1 and 2 2 weeks ago. We're doing day 3 and 4 this week. So what you're talking about walking into and seeing and all that stuff was at the beginning of that 2 weeks ago. And so back to the question that I asked, and I wonder, do you feel or do you see where you've contributed to that for this class and also added your own flavor?
I do. But it goes back to that trust and immediately feeling that trust so that I felt I can just put out my stuff. Like this sort of stream that is Cynthia that walks into the room. It's like my own flavor. It's adding to the pool of flavor there. And I felt very free to be that. And I knew both of you would hold me. I knew both of you would be accepting. I know both of you would give me feedback no matter what happened, right? And I felt loved. I felt welcomed. And so I showed up with ease, that ease again.
Yeah. It's actually, so that's a better way of saying what I was trying to say earlier. I can just be who I am because I don't have to, because everybody else is being who they are, and it's all good. It's all okay.
Yeah.
And you don't know what it was like without you. So my perspective, I think, is a little bit more complete around that. Cause I don't feel like this is a thing and then you just came in. I feel like the thing got bigger. It's expanded. It's become more of what it is with your presence there at the prison.
And that must be true for every guide and ambassador that comes in.
Everybody leaves their mark.
And I will say we were I won't even say we. He can jump in if he agrees or disagrees, but
Can I just disagree by default
yeah,
with
absolutely.
everything?
So Clay disagrees with this, but
Did you see what I'm talking about?
I was so excited to have somebody from the Heart Center in the space. We don't have even participants in the room. We haven't had very many heart-centered folks, type 2, 3s, and 4s in the room. And we haven't had any since this year, since we've been here and programming pretty regularly, any guides or apprentices or EPP staff that are heart-centered folks. And so I was just like, I couldn't wait for it. I didn't want to tell you too much how excited I was because I was like, I didn't want you to show up and be like, I got to bring all the heart. but
I was 3.
I was so just,
It's been all head types all year.
Yeah.
So in 2023, this is our 5th of 6 courses. We're in the middle of 5. We have one more after this. So far, the first 4 was all head types.
Yeah. I mean, sprinkled in with some body and heart, but not, over.
Talking about the guides.
Oh, God. Sorry.
Yeah.
But even the participants have been heavy on the head center. Like I want everybody to experience all 9 types and how amazing all 9 types are. Yeah. And like my hope is that all the 9 type, I hope we have all 9 type guides that at some point can be at RJD and folks can get to experience what's it like to be in a room with a guide that's a different type. And how can I loved it. And you brought your heart just like you always do.
Yeah. So what did that mean to have a heart type? What happened? What was different?
Well, imagine never having a head type in the room to talk about what it's like to live in the head center. I mean, there's something about the heart center that I simply can't explain in the way that you can because I haven't lived that my whole life. I can talk at length about, head types, and I can talk about heart and belly types as well. Like we all have all of it. It's just I'm heavily out of balance as far as having a lot more head type show up in my life. So I can talk about that all day. I can't speak to the heart center the way that you can. I won't say that's true for Laura because I don't want to speak for anybody but me. But,
no, that's true. I can't speak. When I look at the other 2 centers of intelligence, I have such appreciation, but I don't think that I speak to the challenges of those centers in the same way. Like I just can't I don't get it in the way that, oh man, I could tell you all about the challenges of being a head center. Like you're living, most of my life in that space. So I just think I haven't journeyed that same terrain that you have. And it's, I think, just way more complete to hear from everybody.
And actually, a question, I'm curious, what do you hear about the heart center that you most often correct? Like, what do people get wrong about the heart center?
Well, I think a lot of times people immediately go to emotions. It's about emotions. And we say it's about connection, but then they'll go, yeah, it's the emotion of connection. It's love, it's sadness, whatever, it's disconnect. But I would say it's all about connection. Like at a primal level, it's about connection. If I drop into one of those moments when I'm aware that something in me is leaning or reaching towards connection, it goes so deep inside of me. I don't know where the yearning is so deep. And so it's just that. It's all that's triggering all the behavior of the type. All of it. It's just that very young child, it feels like in me, that please, just meet me, see me, touch me, make contact with me in some way. Then all the emotion comes out from that and all the type patterns and everything else. One of the funny things about type 3 is people think that type 3s are like, we're the best at everything we do. I've never been the best at anything I did. I've always been good enough. Like I always just try to get in the ball game. Like just, can I be good enough to be noticed? So that literally that's contact. If you notice me, that's contact. Ping, right? And type 3s are not working to be great above the line. We're working to be good enough to get up to the line, up to some line of enoughness. So it's a lot of fanfare sometimes. It's a lot of putting on, making sure you see. But inside, it's that yearning to just get up to the line where maybe you'll notice me.
You reminded me of something I heard Lance say it's been maybe a month or two ago now. It's just a passing comment that he said, tell me how this, or if this resonates with you. It's not about being loved. It's about being worthy of the love.
That's the whole thing. And that's the distortion, right? I mean, that when I'm in that track, there's never enoughness. There's never worthiness, because it's like a cauldron that can never be full. It's just got a hole in the bottom. It'll never be full. And so that worthiness, it's an infinite scale that you can never meet.
It sounds so exhausting. Hopeless.
It is exhausting. It is, but as you think about it, as I think about it, as I feel into it, that yearning for love, all I have to do is just look. Is that true? Like right now, I could look at both of you and say, that's not true. I am totally good enough to be at this table. I'm totally good enough to be an RJ Donovan with I don't have to even tell myself that. There's not even a scale. It's just a feeling of, yes, I'm here. I belong. I am this. Like I won't be woo-woo and say there's oneness here, but there is. Like, we're a thing that goes in and does this work together. And if I don't think about it, I'm just there. And there's no sense of worthiness. It's the absence of scale, really. I've said that a couple times, but I
like that.
It is a different dimension of consciousness, right? I suppose we could use the word presence, but it's just resting as essence. You don't ask the question, am I enough?
For the record, I'll just say loud and clear that beyond being enough to be here or in RJ Donovan with us, it's actually quite a bit better with you. It's more. It's not even just enough. Like it's for pardon the phrase, but it's just fucking hilarious to me to even consider that whether or not you're good enough or enough of anything. It's better. It's a higher quality situation. It's noticeable. Like I love coming out here, and I've been with several folks throughout the year, I notice a difference with you here. It's not even a way of comparing it, so I hope that doesn't come across wrong. But it's the folks are better served with you here.
I appreciate that, and it's that Cynthia flavor, right? Like I feel that. It's just like, I just add this thing that's the Cynthia twist on the curriculum. That's the Cynthia 7 decades of experience, right? I don't want to say how old I am, but 7 decades of experience, like boom, like it's all of that in this sort of whatever stream of life that comes into RJ Donovan and comes into your lives and receives the two of you. And now we have this thing that looks different and feels different. And that's true whoever comes here and whoever we're working with. But it's also this factor, I'm going to go back to the two of you, of creating a space where it's so open and easeful and yet supportive and trusting. Right?
Yeah, and I think those are the values, right? Like in many ways, I think that's, I don't want anyone to ever walk in a classroom that I'm in and not feel loved. Doesn't mean you might not have moments of discomfort, because we will have tough conversations and we will invite you into some places you maybe haven't ever been.
It's going to suck sometimes.
Yeah. Yes. And I don't want anyone, do no harm is such a thing for us at EPP. And I just want folks, I don't know everybody's story, but I know enough stories to know there's been a whole lot of pain with a lot of people we work with. If it's 24 hours they get to spend in a space where there's nothing wrong with them for 24 hours, that's what I want them to experience. What if maybe they can fall in love with themselves even a start. It's like, I'm so glad you feel that coming in, because that's what everybody deserves that. And I think, you know, a lot of the folks we work with haven't maybe ever had that. So
Yeah.
I'm actually like goosebumpy hearing you kind of describe it. Cause it's like, literally when I'm about to walk in the classroom, I just have some like internal dialogue that goes on about just, I'm love, just be love. You're love, you know, cause that's what I want for folks and for myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we may have set a record here for the longest time into the episode without the guest actually introducing themselves. And that's okay with me. We can go longer. We can make the record even bigger. We can wait till the very end.
No, we can go. I'm Cynthia. I work with type 3. And I'm a guide with the EPP. And I'm here because I was blessed to be invited to come down and work in prison down here. It has been transformative for me, and I didn't expect that. I thought it was just going to be, honestly, I thought it was just going to be a lot of fun to work with the two of you.
Sorry,
let's be superficial.
Lesson learned.
And it's way more fun. But
we haven't even had ice cream yet.
Haven't we?
Did we have ice cream?
I don't think
No,
that's kind of crazy, because
lots of good Oreos.
Lots of
true.
Oreos, yeah. Had Chili's.
Yeah.
Which I think I'm the only one who liked it this time.
Mine was good.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, but I work in San Quentin as well. And so for me, and I've also been in Chowchilla, to be in 3 different prisons, wow, what a gift. Because it is, I don't know, it feels like the graduate level of learning to guide. And I have to be careful not to go off into melancholy about how lucky I am. But
well, that's just a fact. I mean, I'm kidding.
I agree.
Is that what melancholy is? I thought melancholy was more like,
no, I can just get sort of, melancholy, just getting stuck in an emotional state.
Well, how did you get involved with EPP in the first place? Let's go all the way back to the beginning. Like, what's
my origin story?
Yeah. I was thinking how someone used to refer to me as their spider bite. Like I was the reason they got involved with EPP, which I'm afraid of spiders. So I don't know why that was such a fun way to describe it for me. But anyways, I digress.
Yeah, no, it's I love the story just because it was the thing I was always looking for in life is what happened. I wasn't working and didn't know what I was going to do when I grew up, but I was at retirement age. And I met someone who said, you should go to coaching school. And I said, oh, yeah, I could go to coaching school. So I signed up literally in a couple days for coaching school. And the first day I was there, the founder came in at lunch and said, I was just on a phone call with the Enneagram Prison Project. And literally my head exploded. I don't know if I was seeing the future or if I was just the connection between the Enneagram and the prison population. It just felt like the most perfect. I actually don't know, but literally my head exploded. And I walked out. I think I sent you an email the same day. And
what year is this? How far back are we talking?
2018.
Oh, okay. So
18 or 19, somewhere in there.
And I had to email a few times because, not a lot of staff, not a lot of people. And I had none of the qualifications to be a guide.
Yeah, prison is our middle name, not reply. This is not the Enneagram Reply Project.
But finally I connected.
I might need to edit that out. Get myself in trouble. I love you, Robin.
This was 2018 or 19. Nowadays, our middle name's still not Reply, but we are much better. Just to clarify, much better.
So finally, though, I connected with Laura. We did a Zoom call. You were like, oh, I really like you, but you don't have any of the qualifications to be a guide. go
You
to
check
school.
0 boxes.
I know.
I bet that sounded
And
awesome.
I've never been in prison. Like, I don't.
Well, that's the easiest one
Yeah,
to
that
do.
one you could have
honest.
checked the box.
I know. So you invited me to go into San Quentin, and I showed up one day in San Quentin and was sat on the 3 panel, and I was doing a repeating question with a fellow.
Do you remember what it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you need? And he went first. I asked him the question, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? And I couldn't believe where he was going with the answers. And all I could think was, oh shit, I can't keep up. I can't go this deep. I can't. And then he looked at me, and we were sitting so close together, and he just kept asking me this question, looking right in my eye. What do you need? And I was going down into my depths. And I thought, my God, this is really the work. These are people really doing the work. And I felt totally comfortable. Like, it was not, oh, I'm in San Quentin, you know.
Was that your first time going into prison?
Yeah. And I'm born and raised in Northern California, you know. San Quentin's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
And has a reputation. And so then I wrote Rick an email. I did my 3 thing, and like I could work for the organization. I could do blah, blah, blah. And then they took me to lunch, remember?
Mm-hmm, I do.
And then from there I started, doing sort of corporate work, like supporting the organization as a volunteer. And I did that. And then because everybody got to know me, I got to take, do the GTP program, maybe without all the requirements.
What are the requirements?
Oh, now they're completely different. But at
Okay.
the time, you had to have gone through all of the narrative tradition.
Yeah.
I had only done half of it. And then from there, it was COVID, actually.
Oh, okay.
I finished GTP end of February. No, we didn't finish it, actually.
Yeah,
I
you were
was
a gapper.
GTP 6. I was a gapper. That's right. And then my husband got cancer, and I backed away. And then I came back, and I had this gap thing. And Susan,
Explain what that is, by the way, for those who might not know. Of the millions of people out there.
So there were some of us, the program was changing, and it was going to be organized differently, and requirements were going to be different. But there were some of us who had not finished our practicum or our apprenticeship. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, Laura. And we hadn't finished, and so they set up a way for us to fill that gap by going through certain exercises, and we had to present, and we had to do different things.
And part of this was because COVID. So we couldn't
Right.
go into the facility to finish up these things. We weren't even in any facilities at the time. And we had some folks in the process. And it's like, we didn't want to not,
Yeah.
you know.
So I think I'm the only one who made it through the gap.
I think you're right. And if I'm not mistaken, you have probably had the longest path
Start to
finish to become a guide, if I'm not mistaken.
I know that's not a very good for type 3. That feels a little. It took me the longest to get there.
It's just another record. I mean, a minute ago, it was the longest we'd ever been without the introduction. That's the longest. I mean, you just have like
I
all
have
these
records. I'm crushing it.
records
Right?
upon records.
Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, so I did it. I didn't want to do it. It was hard. Because you're just alone.
Yeah.
I was just alone, and I'd have to call somebody on faculty, or Ariane was great. And I was just like, would you record me doing an overview of type 6? And so it was that. And
I think I saw a video of that. I think there was, but you would have sent it to me. There was part of your,
I might have.
yeah,
Yeah.
for feedback or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I don't know what happened after that. Then eventually I got to be a guide. Oh, we went into Santa Clara when they opened up
That's right,
again.
because we had to,
after the pandemic.
Yeah, we had to wait for a facility to actually open up and have somebody that could be with you for you to apprentice and all of those crazy things.
Yeah.
And then her lead guy left for surgery towards the end. It was pretty much everything that could have happened.
You?
Yes.
Yeah, she wasn't there at the end of our apprenticeship.
Yeah.
We were just on our own as apprentices.
Awesome.
Nothing kind of went according to plan with Cynthia.
Why would it?
Yep.
Yeah, it was great. It was.
Well, I mean, that's part of, that's, I think, the best answer when someone's, how long does it take to be a guide. It's like it takes as long as it takes because everybody's journey, like self-work, is unique. And can you hold on to yourself during all of it?
Yeah. And getting through GTP and the practicums and the apprenticeship and even multiple apprenticeships. And then once you get out, as Scott says, you need to guide 10 times before you feel like a guide. It's a long,
that sounds like a lot.
Long process.
That sounds like years in the, how long does it take to do a course?
It depends.
Depends on what it is.
Ours are compressed here, but other ones are 8 weeks. Others are 12, 20 weeks. So it really, and that's if you don't have interruptions. Like we, a lot of stop and start even once COVID was calmer.
Interruptions with prison?
Shocking.
No.
Yeah.
That never happens.
When Scott said that to me, I was like, 10? I have to do 10 before I know I feel good as a guide? It was totally true. Practically to the number.
Do you know how many you've done now?
No, last I counted, I had over 400 hours guiding. So,
which is a lot for someone who's only been guiding a couple years.
Yeah, 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does feel like a lot. What's that, 4 hours a week? Am I doing my math wrong?
Well, she does a double every week at San Quentin.
Yeah.
What's a double?
I do 2 classes at San Quentin. We do a class in the morning and a class in the afternoon. They're not the same. They're 2 groups, men.
Yeah.
2 separate classes.
Do you do the same session for each one? Like, do they get the same? The morning folks
Nope.
and the afternoon folks is different?
You know how we.
Yeah, but people
guide.
listening don't. So, yeah, I'm asking questions even though I know the answer to them because that's how show business works. I don't know if you're aware of this.
Thank you, Clay. No.
But they don't.
Millions of listeners are
Actually, by
curious.
now, it might be up to billions. The Earth's population is growing quite a bit.
So we have a session plan, of course. Always the session plan.
Yeah.
And whoever walks in the room is really shaping what we do, right? That's not what always happens. And so, and also, you don't want to hear yourself say the same thing twice in a day. So I know all of us, we kind of dig down and find a different way to do it in the second class. Sometimes you just tell the same story, but yeah, it's different. And people are hearing you differently. They're responding. They're asking different questions. Maybe they need more time, so we cut things out. So they're never the same.
Why is it 2 classes instead of 1 big class? This one I actually don't know the answer.
It's 2 big classes, actually.
Oh,
Let's be clear.
It's a capacity thing?
No, so we get 80 men in a day instead of 40.
Okay.
Yes, we couldn't do 80 men.
And one, like the room is too small?
I think the logistics of how we would run the class, we would need so many guides.
Yeah.
Because as it is with 40 men, 45 men, we need more guides because we try to do breakout sessions.
Oh, okay.
We always do breakout sessions.
So that's a little bit different. And the layout is, so like here we do 4 6-hour days. And there you're doing 3 hours a week for 20 weeks or something crazy like that?
Yeah, we do almost 60 hours of programming.
So it's not compressed. Decompressed.
Sometimes today we're doing levels of development, which as some of you know is like 1 page in the book.
Yeah.
Right. Or we did a lovely thing a few weeks ago where we finished mod 1, 2, and 3. And before we started types, we did 1 whole class just reviewing 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, that sounds luxurious.
And answering all the questions and also, pulling it together because you can end mod 3 on ACEs and addiction. And then it can be kind of, you've brought them down into their life. And now we're going to talk about types. And we got to bring that back around to how you develop and how we come back to our essential qualities, how we come back to essence, how we come back to who we are. Yeah, it was great.
What do the breakouts look like? How do those work?
We do them in different ways. So we start the class with check-ins and breakouts, and we do them standing.
Like literally standing up?
Yeah.
What's that all about?
It keeps it a little more energized. We still have limited time. So we do groups from like 10. I had 15 in my group yesterday. So it might be a 30-minute standing check-in.
Sounds so long to stand up for that long.
It does, but there's a lot of movement. You'd
Not
be
to criticize,
surprised.
it just feels
But we're doing serve and return, and the men a little bit will respond to each other, and we're kind of in a tight group, almost not quite shoulder to shoulder, but so there's a lot of energy in it. Actually, you can feel it. It works really well. Yeah.
Are we you want to try stand up check in?
You don't need to, but you don't need to. You have that many people in the whole room.
What I'm actually sitting here thinking is, okay, if there are actually millions of listeners, hey, people that want to be guides in San Diego, come on in, because to have the luxury of
we sit down in SoCal,
but like just to have the luxury to spend that much time letting the curriculum work in folks that many weeks and space to. I can't even imagine. And it just is what we have right now. And I'm so thankful for what we have. But like, can you imagine us having time for, okay, we did mod 1, 2, and 3. Let's really soak that in before we jump into that would feel amazing. We'll get there. You're giving me something to dream towards.
We do repeating questions. Sometimes standing up, sometimes sitting. Sometimes we break into groups and then we do repeating questions. What else do we do? Yeah. So our breakouts. And we do breakouts sitting down as well, but towards the end of class usually, where we go in a little bit deeper.
What is because I know where we are, people can come back over and over and over and over, however many times they want to. Is it like that in San Quentin as well?
Yeah. Sometimes it's hard for the men to get enrolled or registered for the class, but we totally allow them to come back. I mean, we actually don't have control over the rosters.
So I'll cut out my joke, by the way, because that was kind of rude. And nobody laughed, which means it's usually not good for the millions that are listening. But it's a matter of logistics, basically. Like they're allowed to, and then sometimes it just doesn't quite happen.
Yeah, for them to enroll in the class, they fill out a form. The form gets put in a database. The database then gets made available to someone else who develops the roster, who pulls from that database, puts them into a new database. Then they develop a roster out of that. There are so many parts along there where somebody's registration can fall through the cracks. Are
they ever told no, or is it just, is there a version of no that folks might hear, like there's not room, or you took it?
There used to be. There wasn't this time. We literally opened the door this session, and we had big boxes of books and workbooks. We had no idea how many people we were going to have. And we took everybody who came. It was like Christmas. We took everybody who came through the door, and it took 4 of us at the door handing out books, getting people's names, workbooks, name tags, where to sit. Like it was just this massive, we had like 60 people come in.
Yeah.
And we didn't know. We didn't know when they were going to stop coming through the door. We ran out of books. It was great. It was wonderful.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot. That sounds like unstructured. Just whoever wants to come in.
Yeah.
Which sounds good.
So they let us do that this one time.
Cool.
And will they let us? Maybe they might.
So that's the current class right now.
Yeah. And that's why we have big classes.
Yeah.
Twice a day.
Do you have ambassadors in there with you as well?
We do. We have Alex Senegal and Dustin Baldwin.
How's that going?
They are amazing. We also have
You
Chuck.
can tell me. Nobody will.
Yeah. We also have Chuck now who's coming in.
Yeah.
I understand Troy might be coming in.
Yeah.
We have...
he lives a little farther away from the base, so it's a little trickier to get him up there, but he's down. He went in July for his first time back. I think it was July, right?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Oh, was he?
July 18th? Yep. Yeah. 19th. Yeah.
We went in for the big, event there before the big conference, and he was one of the ones that went in. So that's cool. What's it like having an ambassador in class?
It totally changed class. We didn't have ambassadors before, and then Alex started coming, and now we have Dustin. They are there every week, no matter what, and it's changed. It's changed how the men show up, right? So there was kind of this thing about I see it now that they're coming in and almost like aren't these nice ladies? Because it was just me and Susan at the time. Look at these nice ladies who come in and do this work with us, right? And then Alex came in and Dustin came in, and it's like, oh no, they're one of us.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing this. And it just, the reality of the work and the accessibility of the work, I think, dropped for all the men. So they're showing up a lot in the class. They do parts of, they're never sort of teaching directly the content, but they are adding on to it all the time. They're speaking up all the time. They're giving examples. And they both meet with the men, before class, during the break, and after class. And they're having side conversations, and they're supporting them and just being there for them. Some of the men who are getting out have come up and said, will you help me? Will you sponsor me?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just been created a continuum. And I think for the rest of us who are not formerly incarcerated as guides, it has almost given us more credibility. It's given us more gravitas in the class, I think, just to be part of the ambassador team.
I remember when Susan came to Texas, 2010, back before it all even started with EPP, and she was just finally getting a chance to maybe go into San Quentin or some other places. And that facility where I was, it was like a pre-release. It's pretty soft, like easy place to do time. And we were telling her like, hey, look out for this. Like we were all worried, like you're going to a different kind of prison because, where we are is what we call Cadillac. It's just easy breezy, not real much risk. I remember when she started getting into some of those facilities and wondering like, what's it going to be like in there? And those are actually, I've been to San Quentin quite a few times actually, and it seems like a really good place to program.
Oh, I think it's incredible to program there. There's so much maturity, and the men have so much programming. It's located right in the middle of the Bay Area and Silicon Valley, and Marin County, which is a very wealthy county. And so there's just, I think last we heard there were 100 programs in San Quentin.
That's a lot. Why is it so focused? I mean, I know you mentioned the county and the money and all that stuff that's around there, but is that it really all it is? Just geography to how close those folks are? Or is there something bigger that I'm missing?
I think California is a fairly progressive state. So I think there are a lot of people that want to have an impact on the prison system and are willing to get involved and do something. And there's proximity. The San Quentin's the biggest prison in the Bay Area.
It's the oldest too, right? Isn't it the one that's been around the longest? Or something?
Might be. I don't know for certain, but it is definitely parts of that facility are very old.
It's huge too.
Yeah.
Is it like 3,500 people, something like that, live there?
Yeah, I would have said 2,500 people. I'm not quite sure what the number is now. They're moving out death row.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's not even state prison anymore. It's not San Quentin State Prison.
No, it
has a new name.
San Quentin Rehabilitation Center.
Yeah. I usually scoff at prisons who call themselves rehabilitation centers or corrections or whatever, but I happen to have chatted with a few rather important folks there, and I completely co-sign that name. I think real rehabilitation is happening there.
Yeah, it's at least aspirational with an attempt with money behind it.
Yeah. And
with some change in organization and with an intent to build facilities and build programming.
Cool.
Yeah, hopefully, we can be a big part of it.
So, by the way, this is what an hour feels like. I have a lot more I want to talk to you about. This, you feel okay to go a little longer? Fine. What's your time like?
I'm good.
So, a big thing that we do in our class is guides do this. Ambassadors should do this. I'm assuming they do. And really anybody, guest participants, whoever is there in the class on behalf of EPP, and even the participants do this. Actually, we answer the question of why we're here. And as a guide, it's actually something that you practice, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you what is the point of it all for you? Why are you in this work? Why are you here? And the here being, a guide for EPP and going in and doing this stuff. What is your why?
Because never in my life have I felt that who I am, going back to that earlier conversation, just this unique beingness of me, has that ever aligned with how I'm actually showing up and expressing myself in the world? Like, there is the experience of, I don't have to be good. I don't have to be, I don't have to do, right? I don't have to like perform. And yet there's this sense of all of me pouring out, and I'm even learning to receive. And I even have a sense that my whole life makes sense doing this work. Like, that's how much of me shows up. I've never had that before. And it's this not doing. It's just being. And when I do that, I actually make contact with other people. I actually make contact. That thing I've been yearning for my whole life. And they make contact, and they're maybe having the same experience I am. And that it's like the simplest, purest, and most full experience of being a human. And that's, to me, all there is. And on top of that, we get to do the work and we get to be together and all those other things. But to me, it's like this place and time in my life where I just get to experience the sort of outer reaches of my own humanity with someone else who's experiencing the same thing.
Any examples of that pop up, come into mind, of where you've connected with folks, or a conversation on the inside or anything like that?
I can't think of a specific example where I could recount the story, but I have many times been with someone where we're having a dialogue, where I've been with someone who's in our class, and there's a dialogue going on about maybe something they've realized or question they have, and we go back and forth, but it's at the end of that conversation where you see them drop into something that they've seen something about themselves, or they've felt something that they haven't felt before about themselves. And I can feel that, there's both of us having the experience of dropping in at the same time. And that's the part to me, is that end, not the conversation so much. Although I'm sure it's skillful means in the conversation as well. But it's that point where you see on their face that something, it's not really necessarily positive, but it's that dropping in. That's them making contact with their goodness, or their wholeness, or their potential to heal. Yeah. Or
is it like what some people call the aha moment or something like that? Or is it bigger than that?
It's both bigger, and it's that simplicity of touching your humanity. Do you know what I mean? Like, when you touch your humanity, there's something else that happens. It's not a big explosive thing. In fact, it's just the opposite. It's almost an ordinariness that feels like it's everything.
Yeah. Anything for you?
No, I just love listening to Cynthia talk. I'm like, the whole time, like, this is why we were excited for someone that's in the Heart Center. Like, it's a much different vibe. It's a much different vibe. I love it.
I can't tell. Yeah, you're going to say.
No, I'm trying to think. I can tell you, I had an experience in San Quentin. Just what day is it?
This is Thursday.
Yesterday, and he came to me and he didn't want to write his bio, and he was very aggressive in telling me he wasn't going to write his bio and why. And I just stood there. I surprised even myself. And I didn't come back at him. My energy just stayed in myself. I just stood there and I went, okay, that's fine. And I let it be, but he wanted to keep talking and he kept talking and talking. And
when
then,
you say aggressively, was he like, fuck this, I ain't doing it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And he was up close to me, you know what I mean? So he was like, I'm not doing it this way. And I'm not going back in my past. I've made peace with my past. I'm not going back there again. I am done with that. It's not healthy and I'm not doing it. And I'm like, okay. And so I just continue to let him talk. And he says, but here's the thing is, I know everybody in the class is writing their bio and I feel left out.
We'll write your damn bio then. By the way, for the curious, the bio, this is a part of the course. There's an assignment called the biography or the bio where they write about their childhood up to roughly age 18. And it's third person. It's talking about what happened to them. And so it is reliving a lot of that childhood trauma. We talk a lot about adverse childhood experiences. And so it's a very unpleasant exercise.
It is.
And when that is turned in, somebody from EPP, a guide, a trained bio responder will respond to that and then give feedback to the person and write that out. And so it's more than just a paper that they write. It is a whole experience of giving and then receiving that response. And it's I've heard literally 0 people call it fun. And it's actually, there's the potential for pain is definitely there. And it's also just absolutely necessary, I think.
Right. And so I listened to him and let him talk himself through it. And then he brought up this point about, I feel left out because everybody else is doing it. And then he said, well, the truth is if I start writing it, I'm afraid it'll be 30 pages and I'll get into a lot of things I don't want to touch into. It's like, oh, okay, so this is where we're going. And so then we talked about ways of maybe just writing for a few minutes a day, maybe just writing a paragraph, maybe writing once a week, and he has 4 weeks to write it. And we talked about ways, and his face lit up, and he was so happy that maybe there was a way he was going to be able to get to do this. And it was in that moment that there had been this whole arc of a conversation about something, but really it was just an opening for him to step into this thing he really wanted to do. And that, to me, is where human meets human.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And to get from, fuck this, I ain't doing it, to, okay, give it a whirl.
Yeah. With enthusiasm. Yeah. Like he was like up for it. Little does he know.
Has he already turned that in and got the response and all that?
No, this was just yesterday.
Okay. Oh yeah, you said that. This was just, so they have 4 weeks to do that. I don't know if you heard that, Laura.
Oh, I did.
Yeah, but we in the compressed format.
I know.
Yeah, it is. You get the assignment today and bring it back on Friday next week.
No, we have the luxury, I'll tell you.
Sometimes.
At San Quentin, we have people turn them in and then they ask for them back and then they rewrite them or add to them. Yeah. We have people turn in addendums because they were there 20 weeks.
Yeah. Do you respond to bios?
Oh, yeah, lots of them.
What is that like for you? That was another one of those showbiz tricks. I literally read one of your responses earlier to some of the guys one of the guys in our class today, or this class, whatever. Anyways, just me bragging on my fancy showbiz.
You're so fancy.
Hey, let me have my fancy. Damn, let me feel good.
That's a Texas word.
Yeah. It is a Texas word. What would you say in California?
I don't know. I'm not quite sure what you were trying to describe.
That makes it 10 times worse. That's worse than what Laura said. That is actually somehow a greater insult.
I love it.
What's that like for you being a bio responder and reading through bios and then first of all, what is that process even like, and what's that like for you?
Yeah, so we get our bios, and it's like being in a relationship with someone for a period of time, however much time you're doing it, and really there's a kind of deep intimacy to it. And it's asynchronous, right? I mean, you're in the relationship in that moment, and those hours. It's interesting at San Quentin, at least in the past, because we are with the men for so long, you really know them.
Yeah.
So what they write in their bios is one thing, but you've heard them participate in class, most of them. Or if anything, you just see how they show up every week. And so you have a deeper sense of them. So when I write the bio, I always read the bio at least a day before I'm going to write it, if not more. And it's sort of, I just let it in. I usually just get a sense of what they're writing about, if it's really difficult, if they haven't written much, what am I hearing that's not being said? But I don't, some things may stick with me, but I kind of just let it go in and let it go into maybe my subconscious and work in my dreams. I don't know. And then I'll come back to it in a day or two, and I usually print it out, and then I start writing on it. And I
like making notes and stuff like that.
Yeah. I underline important things. I'll maybe make notes about type. I'll make, I have just a form of notes that I put on them, my own notes to myself. And oftentimes then I kind of write an outline. I know. I'm a little.
You know what? What are you? I said nothing. I'm looking at Laura. She said nothing. What is it that you know?
No, it's just writing an outline. Sounds a little.
Sounds like you're judging yourself.
Structured.
Actually, that's what it sounds like.
That's what it sounds like.
It sounds like you're mocking comments that haven't even been made, okay. Or you're making your own.
Well, I do, because I'm sort of like, it's a process of the more times I read it, and the more that I write, the more I learn about the person through my own note taking.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense to you, Laura?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Makes sense to me too, by the way.
Okay.
She didn't ask you.
I know that. I was here when it happened.
I didn't know if you'd ever written one. Or no, I know you've written them. I didn't know if you'd ever written a response. So I
haven't.
There's a reason she didn't ask you.
I'll accept my place now. Just sit here and shut the hell up.
Mr. Fancy Pants. Yeah. So it's an interesting process for me of like getting into that relationship, getting into the space of the writer, and then I start writing, and it's never what's in my notes. So it's like this whole other level that comes out. So for me, it's this process of going deeper and deeper and deeper with the bio, and then something comes out. And, we've been taught, originally we were taught anyway, to have what I would call boilerplate around type. I never use any of that. I just write. And then I so want to hand it back to the people that I wrote. It's like this treasure.
Yeah.
Because they give you a treasure, and now you're giving them back this treasure, and you feel it. You feel the exchange in that. And I don't know about you, Laura, but I don't feel like I need anything back.
Mm-mm.
Like it's just gift to gift. And yeah.
And do you do that for all the folks in your class? Do you do it for folks that aren't even in your class, that are at other programs?
I don't write them too much for people that are not in my classes, but because up to this point I've been doing a lot of classes, so I've always got a few that are going. And in San Quentin, last time Susan and I did over 40 together.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and so I haven't ever done a bio response. For the record, I can if I want to, and I don't want to. Actually, it's not something that I don't. It's not accurate to say I don't want to. I actually don't think I'm quite there. It's really hard to read. I've read through some of the bios, and it is very difficult to a degree that I won't even detail because that would require going into why it's so difficult. But suffice it to say that there's some super unfun things that folks have experienced in their childhood, and they write about those.
Yeah,
and it's good that they write about them so that they can be talked about and addressed. And it's also just very. I've heard stories about some of the different ways that guides and bioresponders, how they, I don't want to say deal with, but how do you get through that? How do you keep doing that after you've read some of those bios? So I'm curious with you if first of all, is that true? Is it, and also beyond that, how do you deal with those, or how do you handle taking in that amount of trauma that folks have lived through? Knowing that you can't go back and fix it or do anything about it. And it's just sickening sometimes to really even think about. What is your process for being able to, I guess, bear that?
Yeah. So this may sound strange, but I really try to let it in. I don't know if that's my type, where emotion hasn't always been on the surface, shall we say, for a type 3. But I really work to let it in, to feel it all when I'm reading it, and to not separate myself from the person. Does that make sense? Like, I'm not pulling back and going, "Oh, that's awful that that happened to you." It's almost as if I stay with the emotional experience of both the writer and that I'm having as well. It just allows me to really sink into the depth of it and stay with it as I write, so that what I write comes from there.
Yeah.
Not from my, dare I say, head. Maybe that's a heart writer. I don't know, but I don't want to come from what I know about the type or what I know about trauma. Mm-hmm. I want to write in such a way that they feel really met and heard. And afterwards, sometimes, we were talking about this earlier, I have to go for a walk. I have to do something really physical. I love to get on my bike and feel the air. It's almost as if it goes through me, and that feels cleansing. Sometimes I take a walk and just think about the bios. And that feels good because I don't have to write them anymore. Yeah. I can just be with them. Sunday night, I wrote 3 on Sunday. And afterwards, I sent a message to another one of our bio writers, Sue Lambert. Mm-hmm. I just needed to reach out to a guide who I knew would really understand what I was feeling. And at 1 a.m., Sue Lambert responded. She is so good.
She's a night owl too. We've had some late night messages. She will, midnight is not even the starting point of the day winding down.
Yeah. But I think what I feel in me is a greater capacity to be with all of this trauma.
Yeah.
And so that has made me, I don't know, deeper, wider, richer, more textural, and I hope a lot more real. And I don't know what the word, I'm not sure what the word is. It's not humility, but it just comes back to this humanity.
A lot of what you're saying, it's quite literally what we teach. Like even the phrasing, the stay with, and it's not trying to avoid or get over or any other bullshit things that we try to do in our culture. of just, toughing it or whatever. I don't know. We do so much dumb shit around that kind of stuff. And what you're saying, the stay with it and accept it, is actually how that, I think, how that should go. And it doesn't, it's painful. Like there's no way to get away from that.
Right.
And the staying with and the accepting of that is actually, I think, where the healing can begin.
Yeah. I like the word allowing.
Yeah.
More than accepting. Accepting has a
less consent there.
Yeah, there's more consent with accepting. And for me, it's allowing.
Mm-hmm.
Allowing that this all happens. And how precious our students then feel to us. They're not our students, but our participants.
Yeah.
The residents. How precious they feel when you enter into that kind of relationship with them.
Yeah. Just kind of listening, loving. Yeah, it's, I think, it's still one of the toughest parts of guiding, and yet one of my favorite. It feels so sacred. And yeah, it can be, the words you use make it sound so beautiful, and it is. And it's hard. Like it's really hard. I mean, I said to you both yesterday, I was so glad I had therapy yesterday, because I showed up and just started crying because I read way more bios this past week than I would have preferred. And as much as I have more capacity, it's still hard. Those are real little children that experience stuff that they shouldn't have. And yeah, here they are trying to heal themselves. And it's like, wow, how did you get here and I'm here at the same time, and all of a sudden I have this paper that you hand wrote in my hand and you're letting me into your world? Like, it just feels so bizarre. Like, it's gotta be a better word, but I literally have these moments of like, how did this even happen, that I'm right where I'm supposed to be? I think when I read a bio, it's one of those moments where I'm like, oh, the universe has a plan. And I don't say that in a way of like, well, I'm going to tell them exactly why. It's not that. It's like, I'm witnessing and I'm walking alongside you, and yeah. And you can heal yourself, I think, is the thing that always, I haven't read any bio yet where I don't feel like healing's possible.
Right.
So it's heavy and hopeful, like all at once.
Yeah. You also come to realize where people are in their journey to healing. Mm-hmm. And it's been good for me to see, oh, these people are early on. These people are far along. These people are, way far along. And it's all the same. Mm. Like the process is the same, right? So wherever you are, you're actually doing the same work. And that's where it becomes this great equalizer as well, where we realize we're all doing the same work. And that allows me to be more spacious, because when I first started doing bios, it's like, I wanted to fix everybody. I wanted to jump in and tell them everything you need to do to heal, like right now. And it's like, no, this is.
I'm terrible with quotes, but what the quote that Clay's laughing because he knows, like, don't ask me to repeat a story or quote.
I just want to see how bad you're going to butcher this quote.
I don't know. I'm quite nervous. We're all just walking each other home.
Oh, that's Ram Dass.
Yes.
Yeah, I think. Wait, I could be wrong. Cut that out. I'm not sure.
But I love it because that's what it feels like.
No, that is Ram Dass. Yeah, it is just Ram Dass. Yeah, no, I totally.
Fellow Type 7, I do believe.
Yeah. I always thought if I had a website, that would be the title.
Yeah.
I think that's right. We're all just walking each other home. That's right. And that's what I go back to. Why do I do this work? That I've found the place where I can walk alongside and with a group of people that shares what that means and what that looks like.
You reminded me of a question I like to ask, so I'm going to ask that in a moment. I have a tiny question before that. And if you have anything you'd like to ask, just know your opportunity is coming. A moment ago when you were talking about your your process, and you read through and you make copies, and then you start notes, and then you're talking about a structure of like the way that you do it. And it was like making sense to me. I'm like, oh, of course that's a smart way to do it. And I've heard different people talk through, I've seen people do their different ways of doing bioresponse, but you did this, and I don't know if it will come through on the mics because it was more visual than it was audible, but you did this, like, it felt like a self-judging kind of like, I know, I do this. I'm blah, blah, blah. What the hell was that? Because there was no judgment inside of me, and I didn't feel any from Laura, but I felt this like slam on the brakes pause from you.
Yeah. So you know what it is? It's a lifetime of being a type 3 who gets teased and criticized for overdoing things, like being too organized, being too process oriented, being too competent, or trying to be competent anyway. Yeah, it's just a lifetime of people going, you just wrote all that down. You just did all this. You have folders for those things. You know, it's like, yeah.
I just, for the record, I want to defend you against yourself.
Thank you.
Because I felt I had a thing of like, as though there were like a fourth person here judging for that, and I wanted to tell them, hey, shut the hell up. This makes sense to me.
Yeah, that fourth person is my ego. Yeah. No, that's right. And
so you can't just like flip a switch and it goes away. Is that not a thing?
Is it?
Yeah, sure. So I saw that, and so there's two things that happened for me. First is that's a genuine comment. I do want to defend you against you, because I think that's I wouldn't let anybody else say that about you if they were talking about that. It was pretty smart, I thought. And then I lost my second thought. I was going to say something else there that was just magical.
Well, I think the other piece that, like Laura was saying, is I hate to write bios too. Like, I hate in the sense that I hate to have to sit down and write them, because I never know how long it's going to take.
Mm-mm.
I did one last Sunday that took 3 hours, and I did one that took 45 minutes.
Yep.
And I thought they were both good, but I never know. I don't know what's going to come to me. I don't know if it's going to be, oh, this opens up, I can talk about this, or, you know, I get what he's pointing to here, I should go here. Or if it's just going to cascade and all come to me. So I hate to sit down and do them just because I don't know where it's going to end. I don't know where I'm going to go inside myself. I don't know what emotions are going to come up.
Yeah. Just yes to all of that.
Yeah.
One of the wilder experience, I've talked about this on the podcast before, but the triple cohort, whatever you want to call that, simultaneous cohorts that we did last year in May, where 3 classes went on at the same time. Anyways, the bios from that week were all like, there was like an Airbnb with like half a dozen of us or more staying, and they were like bios were just piled up and people sitting on this big wraparound couch. And I wasn't doing them. I just wanted to go sit and be with the guides. And it's one of the rare occasions where I actually liked everybody in the room. So I wanted to go sit with them. And I was picking up and, you know, reading a couple, and it didn't take long to realize, like, this is a little too much to, like, all that. And so I can, even though I haven't written responses, I can very much relate to it's a little heavy. Yeah. It's a little hard. It's a little much for me. So it's one more thing for those of us who aren't guides to just kind of, you know, high five, commendation, whatever works here, to say that that's another part of the work as being a guide that's commendable, because it ain't for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, you know, every, I don't know, 3rd or 4th bio, I read something that triggers one of my own traumas, something that happened in my childhood, something that I relate to. I had, no, I'm not going to go there. Never mind.
How is it for you to hear that you're a kick-ass guide?
It's a growth edge. Receiving, is so interesting about heart types, right? The thing I want most is to be seen. to feel the connection. So being seen means we're together now, right? You saw me. And it's a thing we want most. And it's, for me, and I think a lot of our types, the thing we can't receive. And of course, we can understand our childhoods and what happened, and we don't trust it, right? Going back to the conversation about trust, we don't trust that that's what it really is. So I have to literally do practices. If you say something nice to me, I have to mechanically get my mouth to say, thank you. But when I do that, it slows me down and I can drop in. And my mind, who is repeating old things that it says about myself, gets quieted. And then in my body, I can open and let that in. So I just had that yesterday in San Quentin. I finished San Quentin and Jason got up and he went, wow, Cynthia, you were great on panel. You did a great panel. That was great. I really appreciated how you handled that. I went, oh my God, it felt terrible. I didn't know what I was doing. I just immediately deflected it and went into ego right there. Like I totally lost presence with the compliment. And if you just go back to the beginning of that, first of all, Jason was offering me his heart. He was offering this, and he did it spontaneously. It was the spontaneous gift of his heart. Let me acknowledge you. And I wasn't even there for it. Right? I wasn't even there for it. So it's that capacity I was talking about earlier, that emotional capacity. That is in some ways, I was going to say it's the last frontier, but really it's just the current frontier. Can I take in and actually feel it somatically? Can I feel the compliment somatically? Can I know, can that compliment be part of my own sense of wholeness? Right? Yeah, of course. That's beautiful. Wow. Thank you. And it isn't, when you actually take in a compliment, you're not saying, is it true or not true? But that's the part of me that deflects. Is it true or not true? Well, in my world, remember that line? I'm never up to the line, so it couldn't be true. Right? So I'm a kick-ass guide.
You are indeed.
Well, I was wondering if I should ask it. I was going to ask, do you believe that's true? And then you went through the thing of is it true or not true? And I was like, well, maybe I shouldn't ask. But then you answered it anyway. So you accept that, or you believe that as well.
Here's what I think. I'll go back to why am I here? I think I show up. And I think when any of us show up, we're kick-ass. Yeah. I think that's the whole thing.
I agree.
I agree too.
Okay,
again,
good, Clay.
for the
Thank
record.
you.
I don't recall her asking you.
Yeah, thanks.
Are you a kick-ass guy, Clay?
I'm not a kick-ass guy. I get to say that.
Kick-ass ambassador.
Yeah,
you are that.
You're getting warmer. That's for sure. Because I'm not a guide at all. Well, it reminds me of what I often say that I like the way you're saying it better, but that I think all of us have this tiny bit of goodness just looking for a place to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you know that you're a kick-ass guide. It makes a big difference. The room that you're in is better because you're there. So thanks. I like that you're, I like to get you for a couple more days. I do have one more question.
Mm-hmm.
And
Can I just say one thing about that?
Not allowed. Sorry. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
No, I just want to say, I don't think I said I was a kick-ass guide. I mean, I did sort of jokingly, but
we said we all are, and last I checked, you're part of the all.
But yes, but I think I'm in the right place for who I am. That's what I think.
I agree,
and that's a big deal for anybody who finds their place.
Yeah. It kind of leads into the question I was going to ask, which is, because you talked about, being in a place in life, wanting to, or having it suggested to you to get into coaching, or that that whole conversation. And that ended with you in prison, like doing the work that you're doing in prison. And so from my perspective, that all makes sense, because that part of my life was prison. I met Susan in prison, and a lot of my life after prison, most of it, maybe all of it, has been influenced by that chance encounter with Susan. But my experience is pretty unusual. And I think most people, when they would hear someone like you who's clearly capable and could teach really anywhere, and they think, why are you wasting your time in prison? Like, what is... And so the question, I know already I'm seeing a facial reaction to that. And so I will say, I know it's a bit of a provocative question, but it's one that I can guarantee that at least one person listening to this will wonder, like, why prison? Why prison? And more specifically, not just why prison in a casual sense, but why with that group who've done those things, who have, they may not get out for years or decades or ever. Why are you investing so much of your life and your talents and all that to a group of people that a lot of people think don't even deserve it? What do you say to that?
I kind of have two answers to that. One is, I don't know. I ask myself the same question all the time. Why am I working in prison? How did I end up here? My family thinks I am nuts, because there's no correlation between my past and what I'm doing right now. And I do have many decades of personal development work. I've had a very committed meditation practice for over 20 years. I've had a sort of interesting and committed spiritual journey. And I've been around a lot of people, quote unquote, doing the work. And what happens in prison is more real, deeper work than any place I've been exposed to. So I'm sure that's a relationship between me and that work, which again is just like, this is Cynthia showing up and somehow it matches with this work. I don't know. I go back to my first answer. I don't know, but I know this is where I can best serve. And, who the people are we're working with, it never phases me. Like, I don't think about that. I actually don't think about it. I care about who's sitting in front of me and if they're willing to meet themselves right now. That's what I care about.
Damn. By the way, I'm sitting in front of her. You're off to the side. Just had to throw in one last little jab. Thank you. That is incredible. I that's not a fun question, and I'm trying to word it better with also still having a little bit of an edge to it. I think what you said there is wonderful. I'm glad that folks will get to hear that. I don't have any more questions. I will say that, as is tradition here, you will get the last word, and in a moment, not yet. Well, I felt something about to come at me. So just saying, there's a cat. Look, that's totally good luck. Black cat walking in front of there.
Tomorrow's Friday the 13th.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Good thing I'm not, what's the word?
Superstitious.
Yeah. Knock on wood.
Oh boy.
This isn't wood at
You're
all. This is like plastic IKEA furniture. But you'll get the last word here in a moment. First, I do want to say thanks for sitting down and chatting. This is always voluntary, and I really appreciate folks just sitting down and giving a bit of insight into their thinking or whatever they are experiencing with their part of EPP. I think that we're lucky to have you down here. We really were excited before you came down, like, oh, this is going to be so much different and awesome and all the good things. And so far, we're halfway through this course. So far, it's I'll say for me, it's lived up to the expectation and then a little bit more. It's a pleasure to be around you and really glad that you're a part of the project. And before I give it to you, anything you'd like to add, Laura?
Just yes to all of that.
Yep.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. And I'm so happy that you're here. I'm glad we get 2 more days of a beautiful course together.
Yeah.
So with that said, no question, no prompt, just anything you'd like to throw in here. I'm going to literally turn off our mics and give you the floor from here on out.
I don't think thank you. Thank you for inviting me into this space. It's another dimension of Clay and Laura that I got to step into, but it's also an extension of the work we're doing in prison. So this is what happens when people get real with each other, when people can be everything and trust each other and keep, there's the life force always feels open between us. And this is what's possible. And it reaches across populations and audiences. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's glad to be. Literally, I say this to my husband all the time. How did I get here? To be my age and to feel like, I got to find me and my place and be contributing to this fullness, this openness, this totality of being me that I get to walk in and be. I don't even get to be this way at home with him, so it's just such a gift, however long it lasts.
EPP is on a mission to understand why we do what we do, using the Enneagram to inspire transformation on both sides of the bars through self-awareness, self-regulation, and self-compassion. For more information about EPP, please visit EnneagramPrisonProject.org. We appreciate your time and attention today. Please stay tuned for future episodes of the podcast, which you can expect right here on the first Tuesday of every month as we continue to tell the story of the Enneagram Prison Project.